GIMP 2.10, how to remove the foreground from an image quickly and easily. Thank you so much for finding me here at Fairly Basic Tech. I know there are many tutorials that are already out there on this subject, but in this tutorial, I'm going to show you the fastest way I've found to get rid of the background in an image. Let's take a look at the screen. I've got this image of penguins, and I chose this to show both the strength and weakness of this technique. You'll see that here in particular we have white penguins on a white background. So that makes it real hard for GIMP to tell the difference between the foreground and the background. You'll see in a lot of other tutorials they show you how to use color tools to increase the contrast, to make something stand out, to create a mask. It can be a many step process. I'm going to show you how to use the foreground select tool that's built into GIMP to do this as quickly as we possibly can. This picture is off of Pixabay. I will link to it in the description in case you want to work on this one. But this technique should work with whatever image you want to work with. It's the same technique I use to make my thumbnails, and I found that it works pretty well. It's not perfect, but it's fast. So here we're holding down Control and moving the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, clicking into the mouse wheel and moving around to pan the image how we want. So we're just going to zoom in. We're going to choose the foreground select tool, and we're just going to draw dots roughly around what we know is going to be in the foreground of our image. So we'll just kind of do this. It doesn't have to be accurate at all. If we get fairly close, we'll be fine. Of course, closer you get, the less work we'll have to do in the future, but we're certainly not worried about being ultra accurate here. We're just going to kind of go around the feet and click. All right, and when you get to the last one, it will glow that orange color. You'll click there, and your selection is complete. Now, at this point, you can click on some nodes and move them around just to bring the mask in a little bit tighter. But it's about how I want it, so I'm going to press the Enter key. And we'll see that now we have two different blue colors on our image. The darker blue is what GIMP knows is definitely part of the background. And the lighter blue is what it uses for pixels that it doesn't know are part of the foreground or background. So what we need to do is paint in the foreground. So you'll see that our cursor has turned into a paintbrush. We can use the bracket keys to the right of the P key to make the brush bigger or smaller. We'll make it bigger. We will make sure the draw mode is on draw foreground over here. That is definitely what we want. And yeah, we'll just make a really big cursor to start with, and we'll draw straight down the middle of the penguin, and you'll see how our foreground has turned into the original color of the image. So from here, we can make it a little bit smaller. We'll get in the outside there. We'll get in the outside there. That looks pretty good. Now you'll see right here, I went outside of the penguin there for a little bit. So we're going to make some of those pixels that we know are the background again, right? So we know that you're the background. Some of this is really hard to tell, especially right there. So we're going to say this part's unknown. I'm just going to make everything outside of the black unknown and let GIMP deal with it. Now we'll go back to drawing our foreground. We want to get the black as much as possible. And yeah, here's where you can spend a little time or a lot of time. It's kind of up to you. I'm going to get as close as I can right here, because that's where it's hard for my eyes to tell the difference between the foreground and the background. So the program is going to have a real trouble with that. So we're just going to kind of paint that in as best we can, get this little guy's flipper as best we can. And yeah, just concentrate on areas that you think the application's going to have the hardest time with. And we're just clicking away. Again, the more time you spend on this, the more accurate your selection will be. So here we go. We're just going to kind of do that. So now this part, yeah, we're just going to kind of paint in the foot best we can. Make the brush smaller for his toes. Get that, get that, get that. And yeah, it's okay to leave some in the unknown. That's the key to this tool. But yeah, it's kind of a trade-off between making it accurate and making it fast. So you just decide how important it is for this to be completely correct, and spend as much or as little time on it as you see fit. I'm just gonna kind of, this part, I feel like the program's gonna do a good job. We just wanna, help it out as much as we can. Here we go, here we go, here we go. All right, I'm not too worried about that. Now we've got the foreground pretty well clear, we got the background pretty well clear, and we've got a buffer of unknown pixels around it. Some of this other stuff, like you could spend the time, you could draw the background in here just to give it a little more information on what the background colors are. And get the background in there, and get the background in there. Again, it's kind of up to you how much of this you want to bother with. I think that looks pretty good. Now, what's very important is that this image have an alpha channel. It needs an alpha channel in order to support transparency. And if we're going to get the foreground out of the background, it has to support transparency. So to do that, you want to go over to your layers, right click on it, and choose Add Alpha Channel. If that's grayed out, that means you already have one and you're okay. But if you have that option, you need to click Add Alpha Channel. Once that's done, we can preview the mask. And yeah, you can see there's gonna be some trouble here, but we expect that. And we'll choose Select. Now it's selected the foreground. If we want to take out the background, we need to invert that selection. You can do that here in the menu with Select, Invert, or you can use the shortcut key Control-I. Invert the selection. Now the background is selected. You can tell that because you've got a little dotted line moving around the frame of your picture. You can also see if you have the selection editor over here open, it'll show what your selection looks like. So now if I press delete, I have penguins. Now I can select none or Control-Shift-A, and we have penguins without a background. Now, in order to save that, we need to export it as a PNG. If it's not a PNG, it's going to replace all that clear with white, and that we don't want solid white pixels in this background, right? We want clear so we can work with the penguins. So penguins.png, export. I'm going to replace that. That's one that I was working with earlier. I'm going to export. And there it is. So if I can close that. You might want to save your changes on the image you're working with, but we've already exported it and I don't have any reason to work on it in the future. I'm going to discard. I'm going to go to where it is. All right, and where did we put it? In downloads? Yes, penguins.png. We'll just take a look at that. Pretty good. So what can we do with that? Well, we can import it into a program like Inkscape. We could do some more work on it in GIMP, but I'll show you how I do my thumbnails. Is I'll come right here into Inkscape, and I'll make myself a blue box with, just a blue box with curved corners. I will import that file. And I'll put that right there. And then I can make it bigger or smaller to fit my box. I think that's about right. And I can create some text. Says penguins are the best. We'll make that text kind of light gray, and we'll increase the size of that. And of course that's terribly amateur looking, but you can play with that and do what you will. You can see from this roughly how to make a thumbnail for your videos or how to create anything else. And I wanted to stress we have some fuzzy edges here because we were dealing with white on white. So unless you draw every pixel perfectly on selections that are tricky like this, you're going to have a little bit of fuzz on the outside. But from a distance, it looks pretty good. So you can, determine the trade-off, how much time you want to spend versus how clear you want that selection to be. So to review, you'll open the image in GIMP. You'll choose the foreground select tool. You'll draw a line around your foreground. You'll press enter. You'll use the paint tools to paint the foreground as best as you can. You will make sure that your image has an alpha channel, and you'll select. You will invert the selection. You'll delete. You'll save as a PNG, and then you have just a foreground image that you can work with within GIMP or within other tools. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know what you think. Thanks again for viewing this. I know there were many videos available that showed how to do this. I thank you for choosing mine. Let me know below, and any ideas for future videos, I'm open to them. Thank you so much. Bye.